How the heck are you, everybody? I am Fastidious. It feels like we have been waiting for months, but at long last, Dahlia is finally coming tomorrow, so I can at long last make that video many people have been asking for, should you summon for Dahlia? That is what this is going to be, and just like we used to do, I'm going to break it down for all spending groups, those being free-to-play, low spender, mid spender, dolphin, and whale, as well as give an overview within each when I can, speaking to where you are in the game, early game, mid game, late game, end game. There is a lot to get into. We'll do a general overview of her kit. If you want a deeper dive on that, I have 2 deep dive videos on Dahlia, one mainly focused on the kit, one mainly focused on a lot of practical playtesting. Go check those out. But for now, we've got a big question for many people. We've got to get some answers. Should you summon for Dahlia?
Fastidious.
Fastidious.
Alrighty guys, let's get right into it. Let's go to the skills. I'll be honest, Dahlia has truly a tremendous kit. One of the absolute strongest kits in the entire game for a mage. It is just very much, and I've spoken to this ad nauseum, very much hampered by her range, at least with the content we currently have in-game right now. Her range is shockingly unique. She is a platform unit, a mage, but you can see there's the tile she occupies, and then her range is just a straight line once she's full promotion, a straight line of 6 tiles in front of her. That is really cool when there's like a corridor she can face down, but aside from a couple stages in campaign, that just ain't a thing. For Gear Aid 1, we'll talk about that later, you can absolutely make that work, and this is really powerful, but for almost all other content, like the main PvE content people want to focus on, this range is useless, or nearly useless, and it undermines what should otherwise be a brilliant kit. So let's talk about the kit pretty quickly. Generates 1 Cursed Blossom. This is like her main feature of the kit. It's like something she summons, deals 100% magic damage one time, inflicts a 50% slow for 5 seconds. That is so good to ground enemies who enter the affected tiles. When they enter, it also inflicts a stack of poison for 10 seconds to up to 3 ground enemies on each affected tile every 3 seconds. That is amazing. So if they stay in there for a while when they enter, and then, they get slowed down or they're held up in there, you can get multiple stacks of poisons. Poisons are very weak in the game now. They absolutely nerfed the heck out of them, probably because Dahlia was coming, and if they worked the way they used to, Dahlia would be busted good in a ton of things, even with that wonky range, because her poisons are so good. However, she's by far the best poison unit with the current incarnation of poison in the game, the best poison unit in the game by a mile. She's got solid base attack, it's not special at all at 4137, but for a poisoner, that is really high, and she puts a ton of it out very consistently. So we got to talk about, before we move on the rest of the kit, what is this next part? She's going to generate one of those Cursed Blossoms every X seconds. Well, X basically equals to 1.5 times the attack interval. So if we go to her base attack interval, what's the easiest way to get that? Is that going to be over gear? We go to her base attack interval. No, it's not. Of course not. It's going to be in attributes. We go here. No, it was going to be in gear. I'm an absolute fool. If we go over here and we see it's 3.5 seconds, so on the longer side, but not as crazy as some of those 5.0 second people. You can see with the build I have her in right now from some previous testing I did a little bit earlier, she's at 2.1 seconds, so you can do some quick math. That means she would be summoning every 3.15 seconds, right? So it's that number times 1.5. That's how quickly she'd get the blossoms out. I'd say if you can get her into like the low 2-second range, it's plenty quick, because those blossoms stay up for a long time. They're either going to stay, for what you'll see from the rest of the kit, until they expire, which takes a long amount of time, 15 seconds, or when she pops them and explodes them with her ultimate, which is super strong. She also cannot target airborne units. This feels not great, but you have to realize a lot of these mages either can't put out damage to airborne targets, or if they do, it's like cut in half. So this definitely takes away from her. She's completely ground focused, but for lots of the AoE content, that is fine, but definitely not the greatest thing in the world, let's be honest, right? So we go now to her ultimate. I think that's, we'll start with the basic. 120% AoE magic damage, up to 10 enemies. That's really cool. It's a proper AoE, as good an AoE as you'll see on a basic attack. Now we got Death's Despair, the ultimate. When attacked, increases hero's damage by 30% for 10 seconds. During the skill effect, this is all at max skill ups, by the way, the hero's basic attack prioritizes igniting 1 existing Cursed Blossom with enemies around, dealing 270% AoE damage to 8 units now, inflicts a slow, again a 50% 5-second slow, slow, and 2 stacks of poison, and that's going to last 10 seconds. So 2 nice stacks. Basically, it pops them right there. You get a nice little AoE burst. It is a solid burst. It's not crazy, but it's good. It also frees that tile up so you can generate a new Curse Blossom. And then you get instantly some nice slows and some nice poisons. It's a good ultimate, but you need to know, right, to get the best use out of Dahlia, you need her targeting people in a lane that's straight in front of her. She's putting out blossoms. They're walking in. She's popping those blossoms. I will mention, when she explodes them, it's AoE in all the tiles surrounding. So someone could be walking next to it, and you could explode the blossom, and she'll still put out damage. But the maximum effect, you want them walking through the blossoms, you want exploding the blossoms right on top of them, and you want it generating a new blossom that they can walk through. And there's very few maps in the game that give us that opportunity with that straight kind of hallway corridor they are marching down. So you can kind of see the problem already that a lot of people are having with Dahlia with this current range, with the current content and the current maps we have in the game. Let's go to the passives now. Every Curse Blossom ignited increases crit damage by 30% up to for 10 seconds, and this stacks up to 3 times. Pretty easy here. If she's got any reasonable amount of attack speed, she'll be, popping her basic attacks, every 2 seconds. Keep in mind, this is not Curse Blossom generation, so it's not the X equals 1.5 times attack interval. So you'll get her at like a 2-second interval, 2.2-second interval, something like that. She'll be able to pop like 4 during the duration of her ultimate. You just got to make sure that you have 4 generated. But basically, you'll always max this out. 90% crit damage is a super nice thing. And when people are saying her damage isn't good, it's just not true. Like this combined with a lot of the other stuff in her kit, so you basically have some nice burst damage, some very solid basic attack damage, and this constant damage over time, continuous damage. She puts out a ton of DPS, a ton. The problem is finding the place to position her that she can keep putting it out and have people to hit. Another thing we have to mention just on that topic, because there are not so often people in her range in a lot of content, she can't keep putting out attacks, and the best way for a DPS to generate rage so they can ult again in this game is to be attacking targets. They do something called rage regeneration based on attack. That's what your rage regen percentage scales with. If she has nothing to attack, she's only going to be getting her natural rage regen auto, which is how much rage she generates per second passively. So that's another big issue, not having any width to her range. Now the final passive, if there are any 2 instances of Curse Blossom adjacent to the ally gains block increase and damage increase. This can also happen to her. 2 instances of Curse Blossom is very tough. For her, it's impossible to get that benefit. She can't have 2 touching her. It's any of the tiles surrounding, unless you get her A1, which should help her a lot. It reduces this number to just 1 to trigger that passive, so you only need 1 adjacent blossom. They kind of clearly were envisioning her like you get like a row of your enemies here, and then she's off to the side with a row of blossoms here, and all of those are giving increased block and also the increased damage, so it could help your tanks, it could help your fighters, things like that. I don't love it because she needs a way to keep putting out attacks. One way she could have worked, right? Someone mentioned this a long time ago, but if it was like, if an enemy is near a Curse Blossom, not even in front of her, but just adjacent to a Curse Blossom, she could like attack the Curse Blossom and maybe it attacks the enemy on its side with thorns. That would make her so much better because she could be putting out consistent attacks, building rage consistently, and then she can do the ult, pop those blossoms, explode them, and then that's AoE damage, so then that's great, right? They could have also made the Curse Blossoms have a larger radius, not just the specific tile, but maybe all surrounding tiles. That's where this poison and the slows get applied. As it stands now, it's just, unless you've got that straight line, she cannot really shine. So there you go. If you want to do Awakenings, we'll do it lightning quick. This one, the number of blossoms required to trigger that passive, Thorn's Embrace, is now 1. Very cool one. Plus 300 attack, always nice when your hero only has 4100 base. Now the A3, extra damage to targets inflicted with poison. This one's really nice. She basically has everybody poisoned all the time if they're anywhere near her. -2 costs. I haven't mentioned it, but she's 21 costs. It's way too high. I think usually with these more unique ranges, they make them more expensive, but I think her range is a detriment in the current content. So getting her from 21 to 19, sick. And then the A5, Curse Blossom also inflicts the same amount of damage and slow effect to enemies who leave the affected tile. So they get an effect of it when they go in. Now they're getting another effect when they go out. There is the gist of Dahlia. As you can see, the kit is so cool. She's super potent. She does a lot of things. Very unique with this consistent slow, the summoning of the blossoms, the amazing poisons, all combined with good basic attack, damage, DPS, and very solid burst DPS. It's all held back by this wonky ass range over here. So what is my assessment? Well, believe it or not, I still think most people should go for Dahlia. I will explain why, but I'm also going to tell you everyone that shouldn't go for Dahlia so you can have a perfectly clear picture, because I'm not trying to absolutely deceive anyone in any way. It's a privilege to be able to go for Dahlia. Maybe that's where we should begin, because going for Dahlia, there's really two main reasons. We'll call it three. We'll get the easy one out of the way. Collection. She's a limited hero. She's not coming back anytime soon. If you want to catch them all, you have to go for it, right? That's as simple as that. Now, moving a bit to the two main ones, the real ones. First one is going to be for like early mid-game players that haven't cleared Gear Raid 1 yet. Maybe even the early side of late game, you know, where you have everything done except for maybe Gear Raid 121. Go watch my video where I actually test her out. She is amazing in Gear Raid 1. And some people are saying and complaining, oh, she's only good in Gear Raid 1. A lot of those same people complaining, if this was X number of months ago when you were struggling with that and a limited hero came along that would have let you clear 121, you would not be complaining. I think people are really losing perspective that not every hero can be for everyone, especially when a lot of us have been playing for 7, 8, 9 months and our accounts really don't need anything, you know, unless it's going to directly help with the end game. So she's going to be an amazing boon for any early game, mid game, or maybe the very early side of late game players that have not finished Gear Raid 1. I really think she's the second best mage in the entire game for Gear Raid 1. Number one, until something changes, will always be Besos. You have big damage, you have big crowd control in the freeze, and most importantly, combined with all of that, you also get anti-heal. Dahlia basically has all of that except no anti-heal. She's got big damage, she's got the damage over time, which is really nice, and then she's got tremendous crowd control with how consistent those slows are. I guess you could say Demi's better, but when I say these things, I'm never really talking about legendary lords, especially ancient exclusive legendary lords. So you can say Demi is also better because she's got big damage, she's got crowd control, and she's got anti-heal. Basically, you need that trifecta to be absolutely elite for Gear Raid 1. So we'll say Demi and Besos on the very top. But then compared to like Virna or Comet, or if you want to talk about other ones like Abizu or something, who's an epic but very, very good, it's no contest. She enables an entire cultist team with basically 100% uptime on slows on the enemies you're hitting. If you don't know, if you want to get a big bang for your buck from your cultists, you need to have applied crowd control effects, right? Let's go to the Lord skill over here. Increases faction team members' damage dealt to enemies inflicted with slow, stun, freeze, immobilize state, and any other crowd control effects, right? And it's hard getting those a lot of the times. She's giving you big damage, and she's providing those endlessly. That makes her super valuable. Also for Gear Raid 1, I think people lose sight of the fact that constant slows means the enemies are moving slowly, which means they're attacking the wall a lot slower. All you want to do is kill all the enemies before the wall goes down. So even if the burst from Comet or the burst from Virna is better, which in the right build it probably could be, it's not going to help you protect the wall, where she's literally doing defense by making them consistently 50% their normal speed. The wall goes down far slower. You have far more time to kill it. You run her and like Abizu, GG. Her, Abizu, Artemis, that'd be the easiest Gear Raid 1 you could imagine if before you only had Abizu and Artemis. If you pick her up, you're going to beat Gear Raid 1. It's as simple as that. So for people that need to do that, you know, early mid game, early part of late game, that haven't finished 121, she is a huge boon to your account. That is the reason number 2, but the main reason number 1, right? The reason number 2 is me, right? And people like me. You are endgame, you've kind of beat everything. You need unique heroes that might fit into stuff to come. It's speculative, but something like this, if there's content, if content arrives where you can make use of this range, let's say there was something where you could face her down, there's a platform at the bottom, and there's a corridor straight in front with 6 open tiles, you could get all 6 blossoms out, she would be the best unit for that in the game by a mile. So is that going to come? I can't say for sure, but they're always adding new content. Like every month we're getting something new. I imagine eventually we're going to get more complex maps. You know, if you compare Watch of Realms to something like Arknights, I really think Watch of Realms is better in every single way except for one. The maps in Arknights, some of them could be a lot more interesting. And there's a character in that game, Ifrit, who took very good advantage of having almost the exact same range. I think hers was like 4 or 5 tiles, not 6, but a mage with a straight tiles in front range. I know a lot of people have already been theory crafting. Could she be really good in GVG, particularly this map behind me, you know, the central keep defense, you know, because you have some opportunities with some nice platforms where you can face her down. Unfortunately, I'm on my main account right now, not on the test server to show you this because we can't do GVG currently on the test server. But if you look over here, I think a place to put her would be like here, right? You place Dahlia here. Obviously, she won't have Virna range. She'll have these 6 tiles, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then off the map. But these 3 tiles she could populate with blossoms. Could be really nice. You know, you basically just want to outlast your opponents when you're doing a defense in GVG. It's a nice option, but if you keep in mind with the current map in GVG, it's not like you can put Olag or a tank right here. You'd have to go here. So once they do make it through, if you haven't killed them by then, which likely you will have not, you might have taken a nice chunk out though, you would have to be blocking them with Olag here in a tile she cannot attack, a tile not available to her. So you would encounter a lot of the same problems. She still could be pretty darn nice. However, she's not really going to be usable outside of like the central keep, for the normal bastions. Those with the normal map we're used to, the right to left map, not really going to be a thing. Another thing is maybe you could put her here, right? Or even if you want to keep that spot open, you could put her here. I mean, that's pretty cool. Count it, right? 1, 2, 3, and then 1, 2, 3. So you can get these populated. That might be something people think about, but keep in mind the only tile for a defender over here would be like this one with Olag. And now she only has these 2 tiles she can summon on. It's not bad, but it's not, world breaking the way people are saying she'd be like the best GVG hero. Maybe a meta can arrive and people can figure something out where she absolutely is a superstar here. For now, I think she's just a cool, interesting option. I don't know if she's going to be meta defining. You could also like put her here and you could get these 4 tiles, which would be nice, and then effectively 3 tiles once you place a tank. I wanted to actually illustrate that because I hear people always talking about it. I wanted to properly demonstrate it for you guys. All right, I know I went for a while, but let's finally put a bow on this and let me give you my assessment. So early game players, you should go for Dahlia. Absolutely. I think she will help your account a ton. If we're talking actually early game, you still have some campaign to do. She's going to be a monster in campaign. There's a lot of little angles you can place her at. She should be really good, and she will be the hardest carry in Gear Aid 1 for a non-lord besides Boreas, right? She will be super hard. And keep in mind, you might be like, Boreas is better. Most people don't have Boreas, and he's not a limited 250 guarantee. I think people lose sight of that. Like, if you're early on, you're guaranteed you're going to get her if you make it to 250, and you might get her sooner. That is pretty important. I like the cinematic. Let's do it again. Then for mid game, it's basically the exact same thing. We can start talking about spending a bit. So for early game, I think basically everyone should go, even if you don't have enough to guarantee you're going to do it. Worst case, you build a little pity. So that doesn't really matter what spending group you're in. Mid game, low spenders, free to play, probably skip unless Gear Aid 1 is your bugaboo. Then she cracks it open for you, right? But otherwise, if you're not struggling specifically in Gear Aid 1, there's no time for speculation. You're a free-to-play or low spender. You can't do it. Mid-spenders, you could start thinking about it. And then I'll just tell you right now, before we go to the other parts of the game, let's click that cinematic one more time. For, dolphins and whales, so people spending a couple hundred or even more than a couple $100 a month, you have to go for this. I don't even think I need to tell you. Of course, she's good. Like, the kit is good. It's just not very useful in the game right now, and she's unique. That's the kind of hero you want to spend $1 on, and she looks beautiful, right? So if you're a spender, big spender, you should be going for her, right? Now let's go to the late game. The late game, it's really going to come down to kind of your spending type. So if you are a free-to-play player in the late game and Gear Aid 1 is not an issue, just skip. Honestly, let's be honest. Let's just be perfectly honest here. Just don't do it, right? But if you are late game and you've got some flexibility, or you're struggling with Gear Aid 1, then you go for it. And then end game, I think all endgame players should go for it unless you're like endgame free to play and you're still being very, very selective. But if you're endgame like me or something, go for the unique heroes, go for the cool heroes, go for the heroes you want. The only reason would be with the other stuff we know are coming. If you're not feeling well prepared, I'll do a proper comparison to her with Anora soonish, like probably within 2 or 3 days. I will say though, Anora has her own issues as well, right? Anora really can't be buffed. It's pretty annoying. Her kit is very vague. The damage is good. It's not mind-blowing, it's very cool. It's more conventional, but it's not as simple as, oh, obviously this or obviously this. There's nuance to it. It kind of comes down to who you want. If you can go for both, I think you should go for both for endgame players. A good endgame player that spends a little or has been preparing endlessly, which I know many of you have, you should be in position to probably hit both. It's not like you need 44,000 diamonds. You know that, right? You're going to get a rebate on the rares. There's events coming right now. You're going to get some rare summoning crystals. If you have like 50 rare summoning crystals, it's going to come out to like you need 30 to 35,000 diamonds with the big rebate. So I say make that assessment. If you can, go for both. That's what I think, guys. That is my answer to should you summon. If you have any more questions, let me know in the comments. Please give this video a like. I'm under the weather. I'm about to drive another 7 hours from Wyoming to Utah today, finally finishing our move. Crazy week that it has been. So if you appreciate it, give it that thumbs up. If you're not yet subscribed, please subscribe. Share it with your mother. I've been Fastidious, and I'll see you real soon.
Fastidious.